The city pulsed around him, a symphony of noise and motion. He weaved through the crowd, briefcase in hand, eyes fixed on his destination. People were obstacles, their struggles invisible behind their tired faces. He had no time for them. He was a man on a mission, driven by success, fueled by ambition. He scoffed at the sight of a man begging for change, muttering about laziness and personal responsibility. He rolled his eyes at the young mother struggling to control her screaming child on the bus, thinking about how ill-equipped some people were for parenthood. He had worked hard for everything he had. Why couldn't they? The world was a ladder, and he was climbing, rung by rung, leaving the weak and the weary behind. He had earned his place, or so he thought. That night, as he drifted off to sleep in his luxurious apartment, he felt a pang of something unfamiliar. Guilt? Empathy? He brushed it off, the expensive sheets a comforting cocoon against the harsh realities of the world outside. He had earned his comfort. He had earned his right to judge. He woke with a start, disoriented. The sunlight filtering through the grimy window pane was unfamiliar, the sounds of the city strangely amplified. He sat up, heart pounding, and reached for his phone. It was gone. His hand flew to his face. It felt different, rougher, unfamiliar. He stumbled to the cracked mirror hanging on the wall, his breath catching in his throat. The face staring back at him was not his own. It was a face etched with hardship, framed by unkempt hair, the eyes reflecting a deep-seated weariness. This wasn't him. This couldn't be him. Panic welled up inside him, choking him, threatening to consume him. He raced to the window, throwing it open, desperate for a breath of fresh air, a moment of clarity. But the chaos of the city below only intensified his fear. He was trapped, a prisoner in someone else's life. His own life, a distant, fading memory. He had to get back. He had to find a way to reverse whatever twisted game fate was playing on him. But how? He was lost, adrift in a sea of unfamiliar sensations, his carefully constructed world shattered, his sense of self fractured. The city, once a playground of ambition, was now a labyrinth of indifference. He walked the streets, a ghost in his own right, invisible to those he had once deemed unworthy of his attention. Their eyes slid past him, their faces blank, their minds preoccupied with their own struggles. He tried to hail a taxi, his arm outstretched, his voice hoarse from calling out. The yellow cars whizzed by, their drivers not even bothering to acknowledge his existence. He was invisible, his desperation masked by the anonymity of the city. He joined the queue at a coffee shop, his stomach growling with hunger. The barista, a young woman with tired eyes and a forced smile, barely looked at him as she took his order. He reached into his pocket, his hand closing around a few crumpled bills, the weight of their meagerness a stark reminder of his new reality. Even the police officers, once symbols of authority and order, seemed to look right through him. He tried to approach one, hoping for help, for answers, but the officer's gaze remained fixed on some distant point, his body language a clear message. "Move along, you're nothing to us." Memories, sharp and painful, flashed through his mind. The homeless man he had dismissed with a sneer, his own words echoing in his ears. "Get a job." The young mother he had judged so harshly, his thoughts laced with disdain. "Control your kids." He saw himself in their eyes now, in the averted gazes, the dismissive shrugs, the unspoken judgments. He was on the receiving end of the indifference he had so freely dispensed, the contempt he had so readily bestowed. He remembered the countless times he had walked past people in need, his heart hardened, his mind closed off to their suffering. He had been so quick to judge, so eager to distance himself from their struggles. He had convinced himself that their misfortunes were a reflection of their choices, their failures, never considering the circumstances, the systemic barriers, the sheer bad luck that could befall anyone. Now, he was one of them, invisible, forgotten, discarded by the very society he had strived so hard to climb. The irony was bitter, the lesson harsh, but necessary. He had built his life on a foundation of judgment, and now, that foundation had crumbled beneath him, leaving him exposed, vulnerable, utterly alone. Just when the despair threatened to engulf him completely, a glimmer of hope appeared. He was sitting on a park bench, his head in his hands, when he felt a gentle touch on his arm. He looked up, startled, into the kind eyes of an elderly woman. She didn't speak, but her eyes held a depth of understanding that transcended words. She offered him a warm smile and a piece of fruit from her bag. He hesitated, unsure how to react, his heart aching with a mix of gratitude and shame. He accepted the fruit, his fingers brushing against hers, the simple act of human connection sending a jolt of warmth through his weary body. He mumbled a thank you, his voice thick with emotion, and she smiled again, her eyes crinkling at the corners. She didn't judge him, didn't pity him, she saw him, acknowledged his humanity, and offered him a small act of kindness that spoke volumes. In that moment, something shifted within him. A crack appeared in the wall he had built around his heart, a sliver of light piercing through the darkness of his despair. He spent days navigating a new reality, each moment a reminder of the privileges he once took for granted. He learned the ache of hunger and the sting of being invisible. Yet, he found kindness, a meal shared at a shelter. Children's laughter in the park offered hope. He began to see the world through new eyes, understanding resilience and compassion. True success, he realized, lies in empathy and shared humanity. He woke up in his own bed, his heart pounding, his mind racing. He sat up, his hand instinctively reaching for his face, half expecting to feel the rough stubble of his borrowed existence. But his skin was smooth, his features familiar, his life as he knew it restored. He got out of bed and walked to the window, gazing out at the city below. The streets were still crowded, the pace still frenetic, but everything looked different now. He saw the humanity in the faces passing by, felt the weight of their struggles, the depth of their dreams. He had been given a gift, a glimpse into the lives of those he had deemed less fortunate. He had walked in their shoes, felt their pain, experienced their resilience, and he had emerged from the experience forever changed. So, I ask you, what if it was you? What if you were the one struggling to make ends meet, the one invisible to society, the one desperate for a helping hand? Would you want to be judged? Or would you hope for understanding, for compassion, for a glimmer of kindness in a world that often felt cold and unforgiving? The choice is yours. Judge less, understand more. For in the end, we are all connected, bound together by the fragile threads of our shared humanity. And the kindness we offer to others is a reflection of the kindness we hold within ourselves.